Hey everyone, this is Lucas at DBC again. It's early April now, so it's about time to start thinking about gardening again. So it's a little bit early to start planting. We have, since we're in a raised bed right next to a building here, it's a little bit warmer, but in a week or two it's going to be time to start planting out into gardens in general. We start out with just really hardy things, so I have a hardy spinach, radishes, and a few varieties of beets. Those are things that will tolerate a few frosts, and so you want to get those going as early as possible so that you get vegetables as early in the spring as you can. The radishes in particular will come up real quick. You can get radishes in ideal conditions in less than a month, although since it's a little bit cold yet, it'll probably take a little bit longer than that. So I'm just going to show you how we start putting seeds in the ground here, and I'll make another video in just a little bit about how you start other seeds indoors, things like peppers and tomatoes and things like that. You want to actually start indoors before it's safe to put them outside, since they won't tolerate a frost, because you want as long a season as possible with those things. So the type of spinach that we're using is Amsterdam prickly seeded. This is actually a pretty old variety. I believe it dates back to the 1700s and is reputed to be the variety that Thomas Jefferson himself grew in his garden. You can, if you look at the seeds, you can see where it got its name from. They're a little bit spiky, almost thorny. And spinach is like that in general. I suppose maybe this variety has that a little bit more. I don't have another variety to compare with, but it's just kind of a cool thing about that. Now, you can plant spinach a few different ways. I'm just going to direct seed. You can see we already have some salad greens coming up here, especially arugula. It's actually tasting pretty good already. But with the spinach, you're going to want them, the plants grow pretty big, so you want to have a pretty diffuse sort of spreading versus like with the arugula where you put them pretty close together. So to accomplish that, I'm going to get up kind of high here and then just sort of scatter across like that. And this will be one of the first things that comes up. And we're using like half the packet here. Now it's kind of going down a little. I'm not getting it quite as even as I would like to, so we're going to scatter them on the surface as well. That's probably about enough seeds. And once you got that done, you just need to get them in about a ½ inch. So you just sort of like stir up the soil here, and now some of them are going to end up a little bit closer to the surface than they should, but enough of them should survive that we get a good germination. Yeah, there's more official ways of doing this that'll work a little bit better, but this will do for our purposes. Kind of clumped up over there. And this, you see, we'll kind of like spread them out a little bit more evenly at the same time. This is kind of an advantage of a raised bed. I can be standing up and doing this instead of having to be on all fours. So just do the usual. Make sure everything's well saturated, and that's that. Oh, here's another thing. We did put this on Facebook, but the garlic is already coming up. So that'll be developing a nice garlic bulb underground already. And yeah, that's always one of the very first things to come up in the spring. And on this side of the garden, we got, looks like this currant bush is actually coming back. That didn't do too well last year, so we'll see how that survives. And arugula is coming up here again, and you can see fennel over there. So things are already popping up over here. We're going to put some beets in, just like we had here last year, and some radishes. And these are, there's nothing too fancy about the way that you want to plant these things either. The radishes in particular are pretty easy. You just sort of scatter them and put them under the surface, much like with the spinach just a second ago. I'll use about half of that there. And yeah, with radishes, you want them about 3 inches apart, so a little bit denser than with the spinach, but not by a lot. So we'll just get a pass of radishes on this side of this bed here, and save the rest of the space for. Let's get a little bit more than that. Save the rest of the space for beets. Might not be able to see this too well on video, but they seem to be going down at intervals of about 2-3 inches apart. So, and then we just work them into the soil again. A few beans coming up already. These you don't want too deep. Otherwise they won't germinate too well. Okay, just move that up. And there we go. And yeah, we'll be able to see cotyledonous seeds probably coming up within a week with those things. And then after 2 or 3, you'll see the root starting to swell out and making a little radish at the base there. The beets are a little bit different. We want them a little bit further apart still, and I'm just going to mix up the two varieties. We got Chioggias, which you can see from the package are kind of like a striped beet, so that's kind of an attractive thing. And we got golden beets, just to shake it up a little bit. And the thing with beets is the seeds are not actually seeds, they're seed pods. So they're pretty hard to separate into individual seeds. So when you get them, each of these little things there is actually several seeds in a pod. And so usually what happens is after you plant them, a few seedlings will try to come up from one spot, so you need to thin them out so that they're not competing with each other too much. Past that consideration, you just sort of like scatter these. I'm going to do that more thinly because there are going to be two varieties here. Some of the Chioggias. Not quite that much. Okay, not really don't want to compete with the arugula too much. And yeah, these go a little bit deeper than the radish seeds, but not much. Maybe an inch or so. So, again, like probably a better way to do this would be to put them on the surface and then put new soil on top so that you get it more exact, but this is a little bit easier and I don't have extra soil here anyways. I'll break up a few soil clumps over at it. Advantage of this is that we also kind of kill the weeds that are coming up to start with. So easy, I could do it in my work clothes in between patients. Of course, it takes the raised beds to do that, but past that, that's all there is to it. Obviously, it goes in pretty quick. Be good to get a little bit of fertilizer on this in a week or so once things start coming up, but that's pretty much the process at this point. And yeah, like I said earlier, I'll make a video in a week or two about how to start your seedlings indoors, and that's the early spring gardening.